The UFC Picks podcast is brought to you by the UFC Picks App, a new free-to-play pick'em app that gives you the chance to win £5,000 in a cash giveaway. Check out the Picks app in the App Store and get your picks in now. Hello everybody and welcome to the UFC Picks Show. So before we get stuck into UFC 259 and what a card that is, we'll quickly touch on the card that's just happened because we've got some stuff to talk about. Do you want to start with where do you want to start?
Moises Hernandez.
Sure. I will just say before we move on from that, Ronnie Lawrence was excellent. Really enjoyed his style of fight, and I can see why there's a lot of hype around him. Felt bad for Cachero, just couldn't seem to find a way into the fight. He was like two or three steps behind.
Yeah, exactly.
Alexis Davis looked good as well.
Well, yeah. So I'm a bit disappointed in myself, to be honest, because on review, I had Davis down and you swayed me, which will never happen again. But you swayed me and I changed it, and I should never have changed it. And then, to be honest, I needed all the right picks I could get for this one because it did not go very well at all. I thought Davis was great. I thought she won how she should have won that fight. She was outmatched on her feet, really. So she deconstructed her with leg kicks and calf kicks and what have you. And then, just sort of beat her up, really. Got her up against the fence and beat her up. She's got a good solid control when she's in that top position. I mean, the only thing that could have really gone better is she could have got the sub. She did great. I thought it was a very very good performance from her.
Yeah, I mean, she's 36, 30 fights into her record, fighting taking on a young fighter. I still just don't feel like Sabina Mazo has found her feet quite yet in MMA. Yeah. It's clear that she's got good kickboxing, and her application of kickboxing is good when someone wants to kickbox with her. But as soon as her opponent wants to start grappling, she's not adapting her kickboxing game to deal with it. Yeah. So oftentimes her throwing kicks was leaving her. But
that is a tough process. Like, how many times have we seen that? It's just a tough process to get your head around, and then even once you got your head around, is then actually putting it into practice. It's a tough process that just takes time, doesn't it?
Yeah.
You've got to learn your game compared to someone else's game and how it fits.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, she's still young. There's a lot of time for her to adapt, and obviously she's in the right team as well at Kings. But it is difficult. You have to change certain things, and like certain styles of kicks work better with others. But also, like, committing to kicks oftentimes will save you getting taken down, because you're blasting someone in the arm, and they can catch it if they want. But if they're catching it, they've got to move the arm out of the way to wrap it, and then they're taking it on the ribs. And I think she's got a bright future, and physiologically as well. She's long and rangy, and she could make all of that work for her. It's just
a time thing, innit? It's just
exactly
a time on the cold face. They'll review it and they'll deconstruct that, I'd imagine, and she'll come back better from that. Yeah, she's one for the future, for sure.
Definitely. Yeah. She's still young, isn't she? What about Moises?
Yeah,
it was just 30 seconds kept grabbing his nuts. What was that about? Come on! It's like, all right, dude.
I thought he incremented his game throughout that really nicely. Yeah. Like, even towards the end, his like visible aggression sort of shrank Hernandez. You could almost see his like ego and his shape just sort of shrink down a little bit, because he just sort of testosteroned him a little bit towards the end, didn't he?
Yeah.
But he did that nicely in terms of incrementing it. He didn't rush into that. He didn't go out all guns blazing. But I thought it was a good fight, and I thought it was well timed by Moises. He did a lot of damage with those his right hand and his right kick. He did a lot of damage with them, didn't he?
Yeah, and Hernandez was so heavy on that lead leg.
Yeah,
like he's got an odd style. Hernandez has. I think that style will work very well for MMA, but I think a lot of people are doing it because they're mimicking other people.
Right.
And as I watch this fight, and as I've been watching a few fights recently, I'm starting to realise that some of the younger generation fighters, they're doing all the right things to make them look like...
But they're mimicking.
But they're mimicking other people. Yeah. A lot of people are mimicking the footwork that we saw Dillashaw using back in the day before he got suspended. And there was a big shift then when all of a sudden everyone started using that stepping through footwork and heavy on the lead leg. But to do it and to understand it are two different things. And I don't feel like Hernandez quite understood exactly what he was doing in there. You know what I mean? Like he looked like he knew what he was doing, switching stances, giving the right looks, but his ability to apply it for success was not there.
I mean, this is a bigger conversation we're having anyway, but that heavy on the legal leg style, it's impossible for that to hang around because the calf kicks are just decimating people. And
someone's going to have to solve a problem. I've been going back and watching some old Muay Thai fights because you think to yourself, well, if the calf kick's going to be effective, then they're going to be using it in Muay Thai where leg kicks are prevalent.
Yeah.
But they don't. The reason is because they're 70% weight on their back leg. So as soon as someone comes in, they're jabbing them with a teep in the midsection.
I mean, mate, it leads us on to the Rivera Munoz fight.
Yeah.
And you can I could watch them for every weekend. Not that they'd want to, but every weekend. Well, they probably would want to, but not that they're physically capable of doing it every weekend. But I could just watch them over and over again.
It's got to be 5 rounds next time, though, if they fight, hasn't it? You know, is that Munoz twice now is won by decision?
Yeah, and their calves and Tivans at the end of those fights, and they were sort of laughing about it with each other, weren't they?
Yeah.
And then I think I messaged you off the back of it, saying this is going to. I hope they don't outlaw it because it's going to stifle us. It's going to stifle the sport developing to solve all these problems. Like this is a major problem for people. And who did you say brought this back?
Ben Henderson's the one for. He's the one that's credited for starting the calf.
Well, I think credited is going to be a term that's not going to be used.
Yeah,
he's widely blamed for starting this again.
It's crazy that like that's a conversation though. Oh no, we have to make calf kicks illegal. No. Why? Because they're effective.
No, we've got to evolve around it.
Yeah, that's exactly what judo did with leg locks.
Yeah,
it's like they're quite effective and we're not very good at them, so we'll take them out so Sambo don't get the advantage.
But the point of this sport is
exactly that.
The point of this sport is you're not, boxing is boxing, but boxing is effective as long as you have a very stringent set of rules built around the fighters to protect the fighters. Okay, but we know that isn't a complete martial art. And the point of mixed martial arts is that it is, that's where it's trending towards. It's finding out what actually genuinely works.
Yeah.
And if you start outlawing stuff like this, it will stifle the evolution, and that's not, that's definitely not what me or you want to see, is it?
No,
we want to see where this ends up.
I mean, I like various different rule sets. Obviously I love boxing, and I mean Canelo at the weekend looked amazing. For people who haven't seen it, it looked incredible. I know Yildirim's not up there, but his performance was incredible, and I enjoy watching that as much as I do watching Petrosian kick the hell out of each other in a kickboxing match, as well as watching Glory and Muay Thai, and I've been watching a lot of Karate Combat recently, which is really cool as well. But their rule set is specific to get something out of those fighters, which I get. MMA's rule set is specific to get what we can out of martial arts
of combat.
Like it's like squeezing it's like thinning it down and getting the nuts and bolts out of it, and all of a sudden the calf kick is really problematic. Just like ground and pound was really problematic for the jiu-jitsu guys about 10 events into the UFC.
And out wrestlers, like we had to adapt and evolve to deal with someone that just blast doubled you the whole time. And, we've, with some respect, have been through that evolution, and now guys are, the wrestlers are having to adapt. You can't just come in and just be a wrestler now,
I get a few questions. One of the regular questions I get is, what's the next development? Like what's the next technique that we've not discovered yet? And there's going to be loads out there.
Yeah, we've talked about hip pointers, hip attacks, and the nerves that are running through your pelvis, and whether you could, whether you could utilize that. Difficult to get going, but there'll be something. It's the beauty of this sport is that it's a constant and rapid evolution, and things like this is petrol on the bonfire for evolving it. And
with the Jimmy Rivera Pedro Munoz fight, I mean, we said it when we were prepping for the show, that like they're kind of mirrors of each other a little bit. Jimmy Rivera is a higher work rate and longer combinations. Munoz is weight and bang and catch you in a guillotine. But their stance and their approach to the fight was very similar, which meant they were both vulnerable to the low kick, the calf kick, and neither of them did anything to adapt to it.
Yeah.
They basically just kicked the hell out of each other. And
there's proper tough.
It was brilliant.
It
was a brilliant fight. I do love both of those guys.
Yeah.
What else?
I mean, I guess they leapfrog each other, right, in the rankings and what have you. I think.
Yeah. You've got to think that you've got to think that there's a third fight in there, and if they fight again, now they're 1-1 in the series. The next one's got to be over 5 rounds because we can't split them over 3 rounds.
No.
Even a unanimous decision to Munoz.
They're razor thin, and they're always razor thin.
And that's the thing about championship rounds. If one of these guys is going to get to a title shot, we need to see what they look like in the 4th and 5th against one another.
State Rivera's calf after 3. Imagine what it looks like after 5.
Yeah, get some ice on that thing. I've got, because obviously it is a problem in the sport at the moment for a lot of people, and I think that the first person to figure out the solution to the calf kick is going to be then ahead of the game.
Yeah.
And I've got a few ideas, but I've also got some ideas as to the next techniques that are going to make a difference.
Yeah.
Golovkin's been giving me some ideas of punching targets that he's been going for. I'll show you afterwards.
Nice.
There's been a particular shot that he's been using, and I think if that was applied in MMA, you're going to wreck people left, right, and centre.
I mean, I'm leaning on private conversations we've had a little bit, but I'm assuming it's stance and pressure, or the combination of the two, is going to slow down that calf kick to do that damage on your back foot, trying to hit that calf kick as you're being pushed backwards. It's not going to be as effective, is it? You're just not going to have that weight whipping through your hip.
No. I mean, that long stance, the long stance that Munoz and Rivera both had, is very suitable for their style of striking, but not in defence of the calf kick from one another. And the more I watch their stances now and see how far forward their lead leg is, it's almost like putting your arm out when a car runs past. You're going to get hit. You're leaving it out there as a target. And I don't you go back to old Muay Thai fights, and they're light on that lead leg. So there's the threat of the counter. And they have to set up their low kicks, and the calf kick leaves them right in the centre line for elbows and knees. I would imagine that's probably one of the reasons why it didn't develop in Muay Thai. But then again, I've just mentioned Canelo, and I'm watching the way that Canelo fights and thinking to myself, that heavy on the lead leg works as long as you're over that lead leg, and you're going to be punching people down the pipe if they're trying to kick you, because everyone leaves themselves on the centre line. That was something that we kept seeing in the Jacoby Grishin fight that opened the card up. Jacoby was doing well with that calf kick. It was really hurting Grishin, but every time he was leaving his head on the centre line. And Grishin didn't really capitalise on it, but it's certainly there.
Yeah.
There's certainly an opportunity to counter those kicks with punches, especially when people are leaving their head on the centre line.
It'd just be fascinating to see what happens and who's on the edge of that curve, who are the fast adapters and who go after it and acutely evolve. It'd be fun to see.
We need someone that utilises calf kicks really well, and then have them fight Adesanya and see how Adesanya deals with it.
Yeah.
Because he'll have a solution. John Jones will have a solution.
Yeah.
Demetrius Johnson will have a solution.
Yeah.
That's what I'm interested in, is let's find someone that's really good at calf kicks. Let them adapt their game so calf kicks are our main asset, and then, when they get to a title shot, see how the champions are dealing with it.
Like it.
Yeah,
I like it.
I even think, I was even thinking maybe the way that Wonderboy stands, where he's really side on. So even if he is vulnerable on that lead leg, he's taking them to the back of the calf, because it's not. We call it a calf kick, but it's not. You're not targeting the calf.
It's a tibialis anterior kick,
and
hitting that that nerve and that muscle and.
So it's not a calf kick.
Technically not, but lower,
a tip tap,
lower leg kick. Yeah.
Always using the tip tap.
Yeah, I don't know.
What about? I tell you. Well, I'll just make this statement before we move on to the main and co-main. I was happy that Krylov gave a good account of himself against Ankalaev. Yeah, it was a good fight.
It was almost a deserving result, because Ankalaev's the boy, and Krylov's not that far behind him, and that's probably where it should have. It sort of makes sense. The MMA maths made sense for once, didn't it?
Yeah. Edged him, but Krylov gave a great account of himself just because he's a tough dude. He's a tough.
He's like one of those. Like, if Ankalaev wasn't around, he'd be the boy.
Yeah,
he'd be the one, wouldn't he? Everyone would be talking about him.
I mean, honestly, because he was in the UFC originally as a heavyweight, and when he got re-signed, I was expecting him to really start making some waves. Yeah, and he got a couple of really rough matchups. I think he got Jan in his first fight back.
Cheers.
Was it Jan? Let me have a quick look. But I remember. Yeah, it was. Yeah. So he fought. I mean, he had quite a long UFC career. heavyweight, Sao Palale, Walt Harris, and then he moved to light heavyweight and fought OSP. Donovan, Nedkov, Lima.
There's not too many
Bose,
gimmies in there, is there?
Ed Herman, Serkinov. Then he got released, and then he went on to Fight Nights Global and got 4 finishers. One of them being Fabiano Maldonado, who's a former UFC vet, and he knocked him out. But then came back into the UFC to fight Jan Blachowicz in his reintroduction, which is a rough one. But still, he's got a win over OSP. He's got a win over Johnny Walker, and that Johnny Walker fight was a mauling as well. That was at the Brazilian card. I do think he is good. I just think he's banging his head on that ceiling of sort of the top 5, top 8, isn't it?
You see it a lot, don't you?
9,
that's they have to do that. I know I'm overusing the word evolution, but that's where they're going to be like, okay, this is where I sit right now. If I don't do something, this is probably where I'm going to sit. I'll have a good crack with the guys that are coming up, and then I'll become the gatekeeper. Yeah. But unless I do something about my game, the results sort of speak for themselves, don't they? Yeah,
that's it. And like if you're in that situation as a Krylov, or like there's a few people that kind of hang around in that area that are. I mean, Jimmy Rivera against Pedro Munoz, same. They're kind of at a ceiling where they need to do something to turn that corner. And then you've got, obviously on this card, you've got like the slightly higher level guys like Benedivez, who's better than everybody apart from the guy.
Apart from the top,
And honestly, I think when it comes to those things, it's not about their coaching staff or their ability. It's about the application. And that's, I'll drop this in here now because we've got a new business on the way, the Atlas analysis. I think that's the difference, is having that Emmanuel Stewart or Ignacio Berenstein in a boxing sense to come in and give you their thoughts on what you're already doing and just kind of polish and tidy and give you a couple of other things to think about.
Because the other thing too, it might not even be necessarily better or worse information coming from this third party. It's just a different lens. Because when you're so close to, when you're in a team for so long, you're so close to the team, you sort of all end up seeing it the same way, and you can't help but see it the same way because you're having similar conversations over the years. And then a third party comes in and just goes, "Oh, have you looked at it this way?" And then it just changes. It's just a different lens. It's not better or worse or anything. It's just a different way of looking at it, a different lens. It's very, in team sports, we do it all the time. We bring consultants in just to have a look. Come and do a department overview and just tell us what you think. Do you know what I mean? It's it's a good idea for a business.
That's what's coming next. That's what's coming next for sure. Because there are, I mean, I know Din Thomas does this kind of thing, and he can drop into a fighter's camp and give them a few things to think about. And there's a lot of value to that, especially with MMA. Even with 3 technical coaches, you're still not going to cover everything.
No,
you're still not going to.
No,
and they're not going to see everything as well. And also. And this was what I learned from analysing my own opponents, is there's an element of ego attached to it. So I can't be 100% honest with myself, especially as the fighter. As the fighter, I'm like, hey, you don't hit that hard. I'm having that conversation before I fought Condit.
But we've talked about a couple of things. We've talked about the necessary level of delusion that you need as an athlete or as a fighter. You have to persuade yourself that people don't hit that hard, and you have to persuade yourself that you hit harder than most. And that's why you need coaches, and that's why you need performance staff around you to let you carry on thinking about that. But they're putting stuff in your training plan to make sure that that's not a problem if that's not the case. No, I think it'd be good. And I think you'd be an exceptional third party consultant. I think because you can come in with a very almost cold view of it, because you're not emotionally attached to the guys that are in the team, and you can look at the facts and the figures and go, well, have you look at this? What do you think about this? I think it'd be great for some teams. I really do.
I'm looking forward to it. I've had so many requests over the years. There's been a couple of high level top 5 light heavyweights and middleweights that have reached out to me,
and good on them, because it takes an ego control to be able to go, we've spoke about this before on this podcast, but as a group we don't have all the answers. I wonder what these guys would say if they were part of it. I like that in coaches. I think that's a really selfless place you're in. If your ego's under control, you can go do that.
So you know as well as I do, the sporting world's a weird one though. There's a lot of martial arts coaches out there that want to feel like they've got all the answers.
Yeah,
and we'll throw a fighter under the bus in the process to not reveal the fact that they don't have all the answers.
Just stubborn that they have all the answers when no one's got all the answers. Impossible.
Okay, main event.
Look, it's a tough one, isn't it? From a spectator's point of view, I completely get it.
I don't think so.
Well,
honestly, like I don't like. I watched it back a couple of times. I watched it for the first time, then I watched it back on mute, and obviously already knowing what the commentators were saying. And I love Bisping and Felder, but what you're hearing when you're consuming something will very much dictate how you
frames
remember
it for
that
you,
fight.
Doesn't it? Yeah.
And like you can't like I can't see how there can be any criticism towards Cyril Gane, given the fact that he's fighting a guy that can knock you out in the last 10 seconds of a 25-minute fight.
I know.
And it wasn't like he was running away and moving back. He was the one that was aggressing.
Yeah.
Like there were several situations where he's got Rozenstruik backed up against the fence and he's jabbing him and moving and hitting him and kicking him, and there's nothing coming back from Rozenstruik. And again, I'm not necessarily criticising him. Well, okay, no, maybe I will a little bit. There was no game plan. It was like he was watching Cyril Gane work and didn't have any idea of what he was going to do about it, aside from hope to catch him on the way in, which Cyril had already proven by the second round. He was just too fast.
Yeah, he was too fast. It's a bit. Yeah, I understand what you're saying, but the thing about this sport is it's a sport and it's an entertainment. So we're at the apex of where that crosses, isn't it? So in a team sport, like if you win ugly, there's no I was going to say asterisks then. there's no note on the points table saying, oh, you won ugly. You just get your 3 points or your 5 points. And sometimes you have to go out there. And if Rozenstruik wasn't really going to engage, what do you want Gane to do? Risk it all so everyone can cheer, or get the win and get his money and get out of there safe and sound and fight again?
This is it. And people complaining about it are the ones that benefit from the entertainment aspect and not from his success.
Yeah.
Like, we've got loads of heavyweights and you can keep throwing these guys in and hope someone gets knocked out in every one. But like 50-45 across the board, every single judge had him completely dominating the fight. Like, and there was so much more that happened in that fight than there was in, say, the Till Wonderboy fight. Or, aside from Damian Maia shooting constantly, Damian Maia against Tyron Woodley. Like, there's like a lot more happened, but that also wasn't being observed and communicated, which was frustrating for me to listen to, because, like, no one gets knocked out in tennis. No one gets knocked out in football. You know it's 90 minutes and you're going to sit there and watch the whole game.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, although this is combat sports and we are absolutely looking to get the fight finished, and you do benefit from getting fights finished, there's still a beauty in being able to dominate and win on points, especially when you're as active as Cyril Gane was. It wasn't like he was running away or hiding from the fight.
It's a good reference.
Playing the game at his pace, at his range.
You could watch football for 90 minutes and the end result is 1-0. They scored one goal in 90 minutes, but you're not really moaning because you got the win, you know?
That's it.
Yeah. I mean, look, I think...
And the other thing as well, just to go back to Cyril Gane, it's not like he's not a finisher. I mean, his kickboxing record, he had 2 fights go the distance out of 7. He knocked 5 out.
Takes two. It does. You know, if your opponent isn't going to put enough out there to open up some risk and some space for you to take advantage of, it's pretty difficult to do it.
Yeah.
You know, obviously he's trying to construct these areas he can take advantage of. But if Rozenstruik doesn't want to play, he doesn't want to play. And
the more success he was having from range with his speed, the less Rozenstruik opened up. And this is the frustration with journeymen in boxing. Like, my good friend who I used to train with a lot, Ricardo Sams, was an excellent boxer. He got frustrated as an amateur because he got robbed a couple of times and never made it to the Olympics. Turned pro, and he had 2 fights, and then these next 2 fights were against the same journeyman. And when he was offered a 5th fight, it was against the same journeyman again.
Yeah.
And I had a conversation with him. I'm like, yeah, but I mean, it's frustrating, but you've beaten him twice comfortably. He didn't touch you. He's like, yeah, but he didn't touch me because he didn't try and do anything.
Yeah.
So I'm just moving around a guy hitting a bag who's locked up in tight defense. He's just keeping me out. It's not fun. It's not entertaining for me. Like, you need 2 people to tango. You need the dance partner. And Cyril did enough to try and get Rozenstruik to open up, and he never did.
Well, I don't know if you remember this or not, but when we were training, back in the day, we brought Victor Estima in to get him ready for Worlds, I think.
Yeah.
Either Worlds or ADCC. I think
one of them.
Yeah, maybe Worlds.
Worlds, yeah.
And like his level of jiu-jitsu was just so far above any of us, and we sort of didn't know what to do with him. Like, it's one of those guys that as soon as you engage, you're like, oh shit, I'm in so much trouble here.
Even when he was dead tired.
Yeah, but then we were doing these basically doing overload sessions with him, weren't we? Making him really tired, and then trying to get him to work out of situations, but we didn't give him enough for him to work because he was of that. He was such high level. We just didn't have enough to give him to open up space for make him to work, for him to scramble and whatever. He was just sort of inverted triangling us at will. Yeah, and it was it was funny, wasn't it?
You can if you know how to play the game, and if you're a good kickboxer, like Rozenstruik's had a lot of fights. Like, he knows how to keep himself safe. Yeah, and he also knows when the right time to open up is. And what was beautiful about what Gane did is he completely outpointed him and didn't give him an opportunity. And the other thing as well, it's the apex. It's the little octagon. Yeah. Like, you put Munoz and Rivera in, they didn't have a problem finding one another over and over again. No. Over 25 minutes, I felt like Gane did everything he needed to get an impressive victory. It's frustrating. I mean, like,
the stakes are so high at heavyweight as well. What do you want to do? I mean, take the risk and get knocked out, because it's going to take a glancing blow at that level.
I thought he looked really good, and I think he's only going to get better from this point onwards. He didn't get hurt, he didn't get touched, didn't get beaten up. If you're 8 fights into your career, he landed 102 strikes. Yeah,
there was a beautiful little technique that I saw off a jab. So he jabbed, and then he switched stance to draw him in, and then threw a teep off his right foot. So he'd switch and then teep on that right foot and hit him straight in the midsection. It was a really nice little flow. You could see the trap almost in slow mo. Yeah, like he jabbed him, pulled him on with his stance, and then hit him with a front foot teep off that switch stance. It was really, really nice.
And I'm just looking at these stats though. It's like, overall, Gane landed 102 of 176 significant strikes and got 2 of 14 takedown attempts. Yeah, like, I mean, that's a work rate for a heavyweight over 25 minutes.
I think he's if John Jones isn't the future,
he might well be.
Gane's the future. Yeah,
and I don't think his issue isn't a lack of power. His issue is a lack of application of powerful strikes. Like, you're not telling me that a guy that walks around at 250 that's got less body fat than me is not able to punch a hole in someone. It's physiologically not the case.
And is that elastic for a guy that is that heavy?
So you can imagine how plyometric he is.
Like he's bouncing around like a middleweight.
Yeah, for 25 minutes.
Yeah,
which is very
I
impressive.
think he's.
I'm excited for his future, and Rozenstruik's going to learn from this one. But he kind of did a little bit the same thing against Overeem. It's just Overeem stood in the pocket and allowed him to open up, while he covered. But
that's the thing. What do you want? Do you want Gane to do that and then lose the fight?
I was so disappointed at the comments of, like, this was his opportunity to really show what he's capable of, and I'm like, well, 8 fights, well, that was 7 fights into his career, that was his 8th fight. I think he showed absolutely what he's capable of. If I was able to do that 7 fights into my career, I think I was 3-4 or 4-3 or something. I think we're under celebrating what was an amazing performance. And from a guy that I think has got a real bright future and has been accelerated to the top of the division very quickly.
And as a coaching group, you're probably looking at that and saying, well done, you stuck to the plan. You were very strategic, you were very disciplined. Well done.
And you not got a scratch on your face. Yeah. He could fight again next week.
Yeah.
That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
It's good martial arts. Okay. Yeah, next one.
Yeah. Let's move on. This is
it's amazing. UFC 259. We're into it. So, right, let me pull the app up quickly.
I haven't seen a card like this for a while.
Well, let's rattle through these early prelims first, because it is a hell of a stacked card, and there's just so much to talk about.
This is going to be huge.
It's going to be amazing. Do you want to rattle through these really quickly? Shall I give you a quick rundown of? Excuse me. Okay. Souza against against Lemos. Souza's the one with the experience. 14-2 against 8 1-on-1. Lemos has always looked a little bit kind of slow and plodding to me. Fights that she's had in the past, she's looked vulnerable to someone as aggressive as Souza. But at the same time, she's got good boxing technique, and then she's got good ground skills to back it up. She would much rather stand and box, and I think Lavina Souza will quite happily do that with her. But at the same time, if Souza starts to get to the stage where she feels like she needs to close distance and get this fight to the floor, I think she might still be playing into Lemos's hands. I mean, like, both of them have got a heavy decision percentage on their record. But neither of them have got stoppages from strikes. Yeah. She's quite happy to stand and trade. She's got good boxing skills.
Right.
So it
could end up being pretty entertaining.
Could end up being a really fun fight. From two people that are, they're going to be, bragging rights for Brazil for a start.
Right.
That always makes things a bit more interesting.
Yeah, so what did we say? We said Souza on raw aggression and willingness to get in and have a crack.
Yeah, I mean, she's scrappy. She's a bit chaotic. But, I mean, her nickname is the Brazilian Gangster. It's just, you can see the enjoyment that she gets out of her fights. And she's got a win over Ashley Yoder. She outpointed her. Cira Frota's a hell of a scrap. She guillotined Alex Chambers, who's a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. There are good ways into this fight for Lavina Souza. I just think she's got to kind of pick her poison with Lemos.
Yeah.
She's probably going to be faster. Like Lemos, like I said, she is a little bit slow, a little bit plodding. She's got a wide stance, but that aids her boxing combinations. Souza's got to be so careful she doesn't run into something in this one. That's what I feel, because I don't think Lemos's record fully reflects what she's capable of. And I don't really think, like, she always seems to fight like she's not really motivated to be there. But then when she gets the win afterwards, you can see how much it means to her.
Yeah,
It's an interesting one. Plus, she's had a couple of fights in the UFC now. She lost that first one to Leslie Smith, who's an absolute savage anyway, and that was standing elbows. And then she's 2-0 since then. And Mizuki Inoue has got a good reputation coming out from Japan. That was her last fight. That was a unanimous decision. I think it could be a good scrap. I think it could be a really fun one to keep the card off. Have you got a pick?
Yeah, we'll go with Souza. Souza. I don't know that much about her, but let's see how we go.
This is a good one as well.
Oh man, this is a good one.
He just looks like Jake Matthews just looks like, that's something we need to do a bit more. Mention the fighters' names for people that are only listening audio. Yeah. So if you're listening audio, we're going to try and start doing
Jake Matthews and Sean Brady.
Jake Matthews
we are
and
talking
Sean
about
Brady.
them now.
Jake Matthews looks like an entirely different fighter since he moved up a weight class. He had a hip surgery and he grew 2 inches. His dad told me that.
Yeah, right.
That's mad, isn't it?
Mate, he's been around for ages. I think he was in the UFC at 19 or maybe 20 or he's pretty close to that.
Let's have a look at him.
He came through tough at 19, 20, I'm pretty sure.
Crazy. 17-4. I mean, but Sean Brady's great. 13-0.
He's at a slightly different stage, UFC-wise, at a slightly different stage, isn't he? He's only 3-0, but he's no joke.
No.
No. He's maybe a touch mechanical in his stand-up, do you think? Not quite as fluid as he probably will end up being. Mm-hmm. But man, he is built as well. He's got a very cool tattoo on his back.
Yeah, he does. Yeah,
Japanese hanya.
Jake Matthews always seems to get huge fighters as well, like big physical fighters. I mean, so when he made his welterweight debut, he got Bojan Veličković. He was huge. He's a big dude. Then he got the Leech after that. Then, I mean, Anzai's not very big, but Rocco Martin's a big dude as well. Rostam Akhman won IMAF.
Yeah,
as
James
a
Vick is long and
Emil Mek and a winner.
Yeah, that was a mad fight with Emil, wasn't it?
I like Emil. He's a lunatic. Yeah, he's an absolute lunatic. But the other thing with Jake as well is he's got his dad in his corner, and there's been so many times when like there was, who was it? I think it was Li Jingliang caught him and rocked him in the first round. He came back, sat down on his stool, and his dad looked him right in the eyes, and he went, "Are you all right?" And he went, "Yeah, I'm all right." He's like, "Yeah, but are you all right?" It was just like that connection that he had. He's like,
who's the other guy in his corner? The Australian judo.
Oh, Daniel Kelly. Dan Kelly
gave him. I can't remember which fight it was, but came in there and just gave him a bollocking on the stool.
Yeah,
like you are way better than this. basically do your job. And I think he went back out and won it.
Yeah. Dan Kelly's a great coach. Dan Kelly and Sam Greco are working together with Jimmy Cruz. What a team that is.
Cool team, isn't it?
What a team.
Very cool team.
Sam Greco's a savage as well. Yeah, Dan Kelly's knowledge of grappling and judo, especially the application for MMA. Like when I was speaking to him out in Fight Island when he was there cornering Jimmy Crute, I said to him, so what's next for you? And I think he was heading to like Hungary or something to like coach judo. Cool. Like he's in the circuit still, and he recommended me a bunch of judo books that I've picked up.
So Brady is Felder's teammate, isn't he? Yeah. So he's got a good crew around him. He's super explosive.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting. He throws and misses a bit, and there's a lot of. So there's an eccentric cost to missing. That's why you get so fatigued when you miss a lot. When you throw and miss, you get so fatigued because if I throw and I hit, the energetic cost is finished. But if then I have to slow that down, there's a muscular cost to me slowing that down.
Yeah. It's like you're hitting the brakes to
so it's taking energy up, and he's back. He's disproportionate. Normally,
you said last week,
wagon back.
Wagon back.
Like you see gym dudes are all like all chest and no back. Or and then grapplers are all back and no chest.
Yeah.
He's I don't know whether the Hanya like accentuates it, but he's I bet he didn't get that Tebbery style. I just had the top of my back done. It was agony. Yeah.
It was a 8 hour sit-in, and by the time it was over, I was like just shaking because my adrenaline was done. I had nothing.
Yeah, it was. I got my Koi done Tebbery style in Japan, and it's not as bad as you think. Like you think, they're there. It was there. It was a long time to do one Koi. I think it was 8 hours with the stick. But
I'd imagine it'd like pull your skin with it.
Yeah, it sort of like sticks as it comes back out. But man,
I'm doing it, but
yeah. So the dude, well, hopefully we can get to this guy. So the guy who did it on me, a killer. He's part of the Horitoshi family. He's a really, really famous tattoo family in Japan, and he was Kid Yamamoto's tattoo artist.
Wicked.
And basically best friend. I think like his kids were running around while I was getting it done.
I'll save my Crazy Bee tattoo for him to do.
Yeah, man. And we were in Yamamoto Sports Academy. That's where his studio is.
Brilliant.
He's very, very, very cool dude. A killer one on Instagram if you want to have a look.
Oh, I'll check him out. I'll check him out.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, really, really impressive.
I think Brady might win this.
He is undefeated, 13-0.
I think Brady might win this. I think he might beat him a touch for speed, and if he gets hold of him, he's going to be in some trouble because that man squeezes people's heads off.
You're saying decision, or do you think he's going to get a stoppage?
I think he might stop it. Yeah. I think he could stop him. I think Matthews has been around a little bit, and he's smart and relatively elusive. But yeah, I think Brady could. Yeah, if he gets hold of him, he's a strong dude, highly skilled, strong dude.
Yeah. So you're going for Brady?
Yeah,
then?
go Brady. Lock him in.
Okay. Do you want to have a go at saying his name? Because
Nzechukwu.
Kennedy Nzechukwu against Carlos Ulberg.
Yeah, I think so.
So Ulberg's got one win on the Contender Series, correct?
Yeah.
And
very quick, very, very agile, very quick. Out of city kickboxing. So like we always sort of say, we appreciate what's happening down there. It seems to be a good camp. We seem to be resonating with a lot of the stuff they do. So you would think he'd be well coached.
Yeah. And he's got kickboxing fights on his record as well. He's had 3 kickboxing fights in 2019, won all of them by stoppage.
Yeah. I mean the thing will be is whether he has faced someone like Nzechukwu in terms of being 6'5", he's very long. He throws a really nice knee up the middle.
Yeah.
And obviously being that long, it's quite effective from range.
He's almost got the same reach as John Jones as well.
Yeah.
He's a real anomaly for this weight class as far as as John Jones is as well.
Yeah.
6'5", 83-inch reach.
Yeah, he's a big dude. It was very strange I think it was his last fight out, listening to his corner. Like his corner was screaming to me that they were anxious about what was going on. They were throwing codes at him and combos at him, and he wasn't doing any of them. So it was clearly not, it's not going in. and for me, like especially during the striking part of the fight, you would want as little outside stimulus as possible. Like you're in there, you can't be being distracted by audio cues. Like you're needing to pair your reaction to the right stimulus in split seconds of time. And it was sort of annoying me as a coach listening to the amount of information they were throwing at him during the striking component. And even, you know, and I know it frustrates you, even in the court, even between rounds, just throwing like encyclopedias worth of information at a fighter. I think you've probably got two cues. There's probably two things, if not one thing, that you could probably really get across, and for them to be able to compute that and then go and implement. Yeah.
I mean, Ulberg's 6'4", but he's still got a.
Is he 6'4"?
He's 6'4" according to the fight card on the Picks app, but he still has a 6-inch reach disadvantage.
Yeah.
And his silhouette looks surprisingly like Brian Ebersol. Have you noticed they always use Brian Ebersol's silhouette?
What is that? He's a silhouette specialist.
They use Brian Ebersol or Bisping.
Right.
They're the two that they use. My concern is that at 3-0, even if, I mean, I'm assuming that he's had more fights that are on his Tapology record because he fights like he's.
Yeah.
I mean, that might just be from high-level sparring in the gym. There were a lot of similarities in his game to Adesanya's in the way that he uses that hip feint and he takes his time and sees his opportunities. There's nothing wild about his style. So he does fight like he's had more fights. However, 3-0 in MMA and 3-0 in kickboxing, according to this, it's unlikely he's fought someone of those kind of physical attributes. Unless they've done a really good job with training camp and they've brought people in that can. I mean, I would imagine at City Kickboxing they've got guys that would replicate that, but it's still different when you're in there and the guy's throwing full power at you.
The only sort of path to one of the paths to victory I sort of thought was Nzechukwu has been backed up a little bit on the fence, and he'll just sort of cover up and wait. And Ulberg's got some power. He's got some real power, and if he can construct that scenario and then sort of let go, I think. We could get a TKO finish out of him.
It's a lot of body to cover as well, isn't it?
Yeah.
6'5".
Yeah. Something's getting hit.
Yeah. I mean, I thought that I thought Ulberg looked really good in his Contender Series fight. Bruno Oliveira. I mean, it only took him 2 minutes, and he was landing clean punches and commanded the space from the fence as well. Like backed up against the fence, given the hip feints. Fights like he's very comfortable in his own game.
Yeah, confident.
Like.
Yeah.
But just dealing with someone who's like 6'5", a 6'5" southpaw as well, with an 83-inch reach.
I think his physiology is making him better than his understanding of what he's trying to do. I thought his ring craft was average.
Yeah,
and didn't seem to be particularly considered. But I think he's sort of getting away with it a little bit because he's so long and so unorthodox, and it just buys you a little bit of time, doesn't it?
Yeah, it does.
Until people figure you out.
Which way you going?
I think I'm going to go Ulberg.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
You're on the City Kickboxing.
Yeah,
train,
I am a little bit on the City Kickboxing train.
I can tell you. You're practically Australasian, really. Aren't you? Okay.
Yeah.
Former title contender, winner of Ultimate Fighter, Tim Elliott, against Jordan Espinosa, he's ranked 14th in this division.
This is going to be wild, isn't it?
It's going to be a wild fight.
It can't be anything but wild.
No, I mean, Elliott's got such an odd style anyway. Like the way that he moves around, even when he fought for the world title, you could see how his movement was making the champ uncomfortable.
Yeah.
I mean, and it was a unanimous decision, but
I feel like if you fight like that, your record is going to look like his record.
Yeah.
The unpredictability of how you fight brings the inconsistency of your record. You know what I mean? It's just like up and down.
Yeah.
His record looks like how he fights. It's all over the place. He doesn't even get knocked out.
No.
But he doesn't get knocked out in a consistent manner. He basically got zombie slept and then came round before he'd even hit the ground. Like his centre of balance went back and his head went forward, and he sort of woke up and kept on going. That was Askarov, wasn't it? Askarov knocked him.
Yeah.
Well, didn't knock him out, but knocked him. Hurt him. And then he came round again. James Krause in his court. He's with James Krause, isn't he? He seems to have.
I believe so. That's a rough run that he had recently as well. Figueiredo, Askarov, and Royval, and you know, Royval's coming on strong as well. He's had a rough run in the UFC with some tough fighters, but you know, like you said, he's got that style that can be very unsettling for his opponents. There are ways into his game to beat him, most likely by submission. He's got 5 submission losses on his record out of 11, but then he's winning by submission as well. Like this could be Tim Elliott's fight to give away, and it could be based on bad decisions that he makes in the moment if he allows Espinosa to get into this. Like, I think Espinosa's good, but there's a raggedness to his game which I think doesn't complement Tim Elliott's game.
Well, it's funny you said it's Tim Elliott's to lose. I think it's Tim Elliott's to win. He should be able to win this fight.
No, that's what I'm saying. Yeah, it's his to lose. Like he should come out with the win.
Don't mess it up.
But if he could throw it away by doing something a bit chaotic.
Yeah.
I mean, like, Espinosa's not a devastating puncher. You know, his wins in the UFC so far have come by triangle and arm triangle as well as decisions. His losses have come by submissions, which is why I feel like Tim Elliott might be able to.
Has Tim Elliott always been with James Krause and that crew?
I don't think so.
Yeah. Because it might be one of those things. These super unorthodox athletes, when they find coaching groups that, you know, like we've said before about not trying to put round pegs in square holes. Yeah. Like you know, you have a key point of difference. Now we're gonna amplify those key points of differences, and we're just gonna bring up some of your weaknesses. And sometimes when you find that right connection between athlete and coach, you find that stability, and you know maybe we'll see. Like you said, he's been on a hell of a run.
Yeah.
Like those losses are to some seriously legit members of the division, aren't they?
Yeah. So you going Tim Elliott?
Yeah, I'm gonna go Tim Elliott. Yeah, okay. I hope he can pull that off.
Right, prelims.
Yeah.
Bontorin against Kai Kara-France.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm gonna be on
another guy
train again.
To Kai Kara-France, 21-9. His record does not reflect how good he is.
Yeah.
It does not.
I loved his fight with Moreno.
Yeah.
In it, what a fight!
Yeah,
and, you know,
and his fight against Royval for as long as it lasted, was wild. There was a lot of hype when he came into the UFC. Made his debut in Melbourne. I was on the call for that one against Hardy Paiva, and everybody around the hotel was like, "Oh, Kai Kara-France on the card. Kai Kara-France making his debut."
Yeah,
there's definitely a real buzz around him. What is he? Still young, isn't he? How old is he? 27.
I think
30 fights into his record.
I'm wary of being too cut and dried with any picks, really. But I think he will pick Bontorin apart, standing, and then it's the obvious scenario whether or not Rodrigo can get him to the ground. Because I think he might be slightly outmatched if he does get him to the ground, but.
Bontorin's ground game is definitely a problem for him.
Yeah.
It's all arm bars and chokes.
Yeah.
It's a nice basic clean. It's just a nice basic clean jiu-jitsu game.
Fundamental.
For him, There's nothing crazy about it. I'm just looking at his record here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 rear naked chokes on his record. 2 arm bars and a heel hook. Like he's stacking himself against the highest success rate of submissions, which is rear naked chokes.
Yeah.
And you only need to catch someone with a shot and rock them and expose their back.
I mean this is a classic archetype in it. It's the guy who is significantly quicker, crisper, and more athletic on the feet. And if Rodrigo can get him to the ground, he's probably gonna find a result down there, isn't he?
You just got to wonder what Kai Kara-France's mind's like coming into this one off that loss to Royval, because he put himself in that guillotine, and he would probably look back on that and think to himself, that was a silly mistake I made. But there was a reason why he made that mistake. The reason why he level changed is because Royval was just too difficult to deal with.
I can't see him being forced into doing this fight. Like you'd be very surprised if Bontorin's striking was enough that it made Kai Kara-France shoot. I can't see that happening necessarily.
No, I can't. Not unless he gets rocked, or because the thing is, so like Kai Kara-France's footwork, much like Peter Yan, can be very unnerving for people because they feel they're being painted into a corner and they don't really know exactly how to stop it happening.
Yeah.
And I can see in this fight Kai Kara-France having his way to an extent, backing Bontorin up against the fence and Bontorin be feeling like a cornered animal and swiping at him and catching him with something and hurting him and then jumping on his back.
Mm-hmm.
Like the pressure that Kai Kara-France puts on Bontorin might force Bontorin to throw with power out of panic to get some space, to alleviate some space. Mm-hmm. Like that's, again, I mean, I'm going back to it, but that's what Peter Yan does. I talk about it in the War Room. Like, he paints you into a corner and then he eats your jab over and over again to the point where you're like, this is not working. Yeah. I'm going to have to throw something more powerful.
Force you into doing something else.
Then you throw a power punch and he slipped out to the side and he's clinched you.
Yeah.
You know, so like, and they're both trained out of Thailand as well. They're both Tiger Muay Thai guys as well. And obviously, I know he's at City Kickboxing, but
I can see like Kai Kara-France's double jab right hand is so fast. It's so precise. And I can see him. I can just see Rodrigo getting beaten for speed with that, and then it's it's a crescendo from there, really, isn't it?
So you're sticking with Australasia then?
Yeah, I'm just gonna be really unoriginal and stay with.
Apparently, both these guys are ranked 8.
Oh, nice! Right, we're sharing rankings now. So I knew it was close, but
so that'll be interesting to see which one. Maybe it's loser goes home. I don't know.
Yeah, lock him in. Kara-France.
Yeah, Kai Kara-France.
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, this is co-main event on most cards.
On every other card this year. Coming.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a few of them.
Imagine being ranked 2 and 3 and being told you're on the prelims. Like,
oh, right. Yeah. Okay. I mean, I just think Askarov is just different.
Yeah, he is.
It's just different. This is really. It feels wrong. So I'm picking Askarov, but it feels wrong. Like, how can I be picking against Benedivez? He's ranked number 2. He's been around. He's got an amazing record.
But that's the thing. He's always been ranked number 2.
Yeah.
And that's the thing that puts doubt in people's minds is you see him do so well, and then he gets to the finish line and he can't quite make it over. Like, that first fight he had against Demetrius Johnson was awesome. Really good performance and really showed what he's capable of. In the rematch, he just left himself open. He was a little bit too aggressive. I think he felt so confident coming off the first one that he was a bit too overzealous in the second one. And he got caught. And it's the nature of it, like you said with Tim Elliott, it's the nature of his style. Like Benedivez he is face first. Yeah. He has got a very unorthodox, unusual style. And when he does move forward, like you watch one of his fights in slow motion, most of the time his forehead is the furthest thing forward when he's moving. Yeah. It's just
too high risk strategy,
massively risky. I mean, you got to think the Figueiredo fight was a clash of heads. That's what started it. That's what started the cut before he got knocked out.
I mean, he got beaten up by Figueiredo twice.
Second time around, he did for sure. First time, he was doing all right. I mean, he got there was a bit of a scramble on the floor where he looked like he was vulnerable to an armbar for a moment, but then scrambled out of that, and he was starting to find his rhythm a little bit. But then the clash of heads, jogging back against the fence, check the cut and
dink.
And then the second time around, Figueiredo just absolutely
just completely had his number, didn't he?
Yeah, and he always seems to do better first time around.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that was his last fight outright. He's been properly dismantled by Figueiredo. So there's a psychological
especially because
barrier
he's been how many times to the belt then?
Yeah,
I mean, what was that? His third attempt, fourth attempt.
And now you sort of knowing. I just can't quite get to that belt. Like, who am I? Where do I sit in this sport? If I, everyone's aim is to get to the belt, right? And you've had five cracks at it.
I think 4.
4 cracks at it.
He's had two with Demetrius Johnson. He lost Cruz. He lost to Cruz for the bantamweight title in WEC. Then he fought. He won the first round of the flyweight tournament when the belt was vacant. Then he lost to DJ. Then he fought DJ again and lost again. And then he's had 2 cracks now at Figueiredo and lost them both.
Man, like I said at the start, I just think Askarov is just different. It's just a different...
Is it a nothing to lose circumstance, though, for Benedivez? I mean, is there weight in that? The fact that he can come in and just be like, well, I've had 5 cracks at the belt. My job now is to just stop these guys getting there.
It's just to be a pain for everyone else.
Self-adopted gatekeeper position.
Yeah, maybe.
A second-ranked gatekeeper, though. Would be a very frustrating thing for him to be.
It's a nasty gate to have to get through.
Oh,
Yeah.
But then Askarov, we're kind of still waiting to find out what he's fully capable of.
He's only had 3 fights, right, in the UFC.
Yeah.
And he's ranked number 3.
He's got a draw with Moreno, who's obviously a contender. He's got a unanimous decision over Tim Elliott, and then a UD over Pantoja as well. And Pantoja is another great fighter in this division. A little bit ragged, I
like him.
A little bit loose around the edges, but aggressive with it.
A lot.
And that's why he lost the fight against Figueiredo, Pantoja, because he was just a little bit too vulnerable to him.
Yeah.
And Askarov's...
Askarov's like the opposite of sort of Tim Elliott, isn't he? He's just controlled, he's tight, he's accurate. He's got that
it's that Russian style,
that
man.
cold serial killer type. It's like
same as Peter Yang.
Action to him, yeah.
There's no fat in his game.
No.
Like, he knows what he's
wasted,
doing.
is it?
Yeah. He's deaf as well.
Yeah. I was thinking about that. I don't know whether this is true or not, but I wonder if the lack of stimulus improves his visual stimulus.
Maybe.
Do you know what I mean? There's nothing. A lot of it is shut out, so everything. My whole brain is concentrating on the visual stimulus.
Maybe
you can't hear 1,000 codes being shouted from your corner, or not crowds
sometimes.
Or whatever. But
can't hear the bell ring either.
Yeah,
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Which way are you going? You're going Askarov.
I am going Askarov. Yeah. It feels weird to pick against the second ranked fighter in the division, especially of that caliber, but I think Askarov is coming.
Yeah.
He's coming up. He's going to have a crack.
Yeah. Song Yadong, Kyler Phillips, The Matrix.
I don't know how...
No one wants to fight him, that's why. I know what you're going to ask.
Yeah, I don't know how Kyler's got this fight. Unless everyone else is like, no, you're right, you have him. I don't want any of... I don't want this Yadong smoke things. If you speak to people around the sport, Song Yadong is the boy. He's coming. He's coming up, and he's.
When I was visiting Dean over at the PI, he was there training, and I was showing some footwork drills, and he was getting incredibly frustrated because he couldn't do it.
And he can do that now.
Oh, he can do it now. 100%. He could do it by the end of the day because he didn't stop practicing until he got it. But he's, you take the skills that he's already got, and then you take him over to alpha male, like we were talking about a minute ago. It's just a different look. It's a different set of eyes.
Yeah.
They go, maybe think about this, and maybe think about this, and
they're tuning
fast,
him.
Powerful.
Yeah,
like
they're tuning
in
him.
great
I don't feel like
condition.
they're rushing him too much either.
No.
They're being smart with their...
He's still young, isn't it? 23.
So 16 and 4, and he's only 23. So you've got to think by the time, in another 7 years what that record sort of looks like by the time he's 30.
Yeah, and it's been a while since he lost as well.
He didn't beat Cheeto though.
No,
he didn't beat Cheeto.
No, I don't think so.
I watched that this morning again, and I don't think he beat Cheeto.
No, I gave Cheeto 2 rounds.
Yeah.
I did.
A good fight and like tough. Like how tough is Cheeto? But I don't think he beat him. Put it that way.
Has he fought anybody that's got a similar style to Kyler Phillips though?
No, but no one really has a Kyler Phillips style, and he's a bit of an enigma on the way he goes. He's very, very athletic.
A lot of buzz around.
Unpredictable.
A lot of buzz around.
Yeah.
People are very excited for him.
Yeah. I think
his nickname used to be Storm. When he was a kid, his dad used to enter him into like grappling matches at parties and stuff, and he was just like a bit of a lunatic. He'd go after the finish. But then when he progressed on to his MMA career and started working with his new team, they gave him the nickname The Matrix.
Right.
And I think more that was a psychological play than anything. Because they probably can tell that he's very technical. But if you call someone a brawler, they're like, I'm a brawler, I'll go and brawl.
Yeah.
Whereas if you call someone Matrix, they're like, okay, I'm kind of slick here. And he is very slick. He is very slick.
Yeah, I don't necessarily think his fundamentals are at the same level as Song.
He's at half the fights as well.
Yeah, and obviously with the way he fights and the unpredictable nature of how he fights, it almost always opens up an opportunity for you to win, because if you're that unorthodox, then that's the picture that your opponent is seeing. But I don't think it will rattle Yadong at all. I think he will cope with it relatively well, and Song Yadong's fundamentals are beautiful to watch, and I think he will almost shouldn't say that, almost certainly come away with a victory here.
So you're picking Song?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. I'm excited. I'm really excited to see Song's career. Like you said, we talked to Dean a lot over at the PI over in Shanghai, and get some inside information about what's going on. And obviously, I know he's an alpha male, but you know the information in the circle of MMA is quite small.
Well, they've tested him thoroughly, haven't they?
Yeah.
Because you know he walks into a performance institute, and he's the kind of person you want to see what he's capable of.
Definitely.
Like how can we find his limitations? Because he doesn't seem to have too many physically, at least.
Oh man, 23.
Good opportunity for Phillips, though. It's really a good opportunity for him because he's
skyrockets him if he gets the win.
It does.
Suddenly, that's who everyone's talking about, isn't it? If he gets the win,
he might become the guy that people don't want to fight. Because I'm kind of feeling like Song Yadong's probably being turned down by a few people in this division. Just because they know how dangerous he is and how difficult he would be.
Yeah.
So you're going with Song?
Yeah, we'll lock Song Yadong in. Yeah.
Oh, how is this on the prelims?
It's amazing, isn't it?
Great opportunity for Casey Kenny and a guy that had a fantastic 2020. Just looked great in every one of his outings. Absolutely kicked the hell out of Alateng Ali. Like dismantled his body. Got a one-arm guillotine over Louis Smolka. A one-arm guillotine.
Yeah.
He's listed on his record as that. And then that fight against Nathaniel Wood, which was
fun fight.
What was it? 3 weeks after his fight against Alateng Haley. Actually went back to Vegas
and then had to fly back
flew back to Fight Island to do it. But then, had an absolute war and looked strong and conditioned throughout. And we've still not really seen him use his judo.
No.
He's got a real strong judo
background. These two polar opposites. You've got Kenny's fought 4 times in a year, and Cruz, he hasn't won since 2016. He's had just the worst, torrid time with his ACLs.
It's all that bouncing around he does. It's that mad footwork he's got.
Well, it's funny. So they did a cadaver graft for his first ACL. So they just took someone else's ACL and then grafted it in and tried to get that to set. That's quite an American style of surgery. So I've rehabbed, I've rehabbed maybe 10 or 12 athletes with ACLs, and most of that was done in Australia. And in Australia, they more often than not, they take the hamstring tendon, fold it over, and make a graft out of that. So it's your tissue. So you have a lot less problems with it integrating into your body, obviously, because it's your tissue. Now, when you do that, you're effectively rehabbing a hamstring injury as well, because So when I was in Australia, I went into surgery and watched this happen, like live, stood right next to it and watched it happen. It was amazing. So the guy they did it on, Quade Cooper's rugby player over in Australia, got a pretty big profile, played for Australia, was a bit of a renegade, like a good friend of mine now, but a bit of a renegade, and saw the game differently. And because he saw the game differently, he could do these magical type thing, very high risk way of playing, but he would just do this magic. Crowds loved him and what have you. High risk, high reward. Anyway, so I watched his surgery live. There's a very famous surgeon called Pete Myers who does pretty much anyone in professional team sports in Australia. If you do your ACL, that's who you want to get to do it. He won't touch cadavers. I haven't spoken to him for a couple of years, so maybe that's changed, but he did all of his ACLs he did with a hamstring graft.
Wow.
But specifically for that reason, it's your tissue into your body, and the setting rate is much better. So
you'd say that the integration of somebody else's tissue into your body is more problematic than removing hamstring tissue.
So you're minimum looking at a 6-month rehab for an ACL. So
is it the same leg that they take the hamstring from?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So it's a very compromised limb, but to rehab that hamstring is probably going to take 8 weeks, and you've got a 6 to 9 month window to get your ACL right. So there's plenty of time for that healing and strengthening that muscle up.
So Cruz has got a zombie knee then.
Yeah, you know what? I'm not even sure how that all played out. So they definitely did a cadaver. It failed. I think they did it again, and then he popped his ACL on the other leg, which is actually quite a common thing. You kind of see that, whether it's a compensation issue from the other leg, or you just genetically lacks ligaments. That might be the other. That's happened to me. I've rehabbed someone all the way through for 8 months. Back to training, done everything you could ever imagine to do, everything's right, pops the other ACL like a couple of weeks into training. Devastating, yeah.
So basically, would have had to go and harvest another ligament from someone.
Yeah,
I always knew he was a bit of a psychopath. Cruz.
So, and the thing is too. So when in team sports players, that it takes them a good couple. They get back to playing, but they're not quite who they were. And I wonder whether this is the case for Dominic because of the way he moves. It's such an abstract way of moving. You need everything to be right. You know, you really need everything to be right. The way it angles off, and depending on your foot placement, it depends on the pronation of a lot of your muscles coming up your chain, which puts different types of pressure on your ligaments, where your knee is shifting over itself or twisting. So,
did you ever see the movie? Oh, you definitely have, because I used to watch it all the time during fight week. Friday Night Lights with Billy Bob Thornton.
Yeah.
Like, do you remember Booby Miles?
Yeah,
in that?
Exactly.
And they said the same thing to him. It's like, if he was a different player, you'd probably be all right, but the way that you play,
no chance. Yeah.
Casey Kenny's kicking game could be real problematic, because as good as Dominic Cruz's footwork is, A, low kicks are going to cause him problems, especially if he's going to be cautious of his knee, and B, you move your feet and your head as much as you want, but your body tends to stay in very similar positions. And Casey Kenny kicks with a lot of commitment and also doesn't mind falling into a clinch.
Yeah.
I think this might be a real coming out party for Casey Kenny. Obviously, we can't underestimate Dominic Cruz. He's one of the best of all time. But
you can't underestimate Dominic Cruz, can you?
You can't. No, you can't.
It's almost tempting sometimes when you look at, the amount of fights he's had recently is not very many. The trouble he's had with his knees, but you can never count him out. He's too smart. He's too cerebral. He understands the sport. I don't think you can fight like he fights without a really good understanding of the sport.
No, and he has a fantastic understanding of the sport and how to apply the skills that he's got. Like, he's not, like, physiologically, he's not a standout athlete, I wouldn't say.
Yeah.
No, I think he's crafted his game well to what he's got to work with. But then, like you said, regarding the knee and the timeout and the frustrations and stuff, where does that leave him with someone like Casey Kenny, who's had a fantastic 2020?
And he's rolling, and Kenny's just rolling, and
he's loving it.
He's aggressive, and he starts fast, and he's aggressive, and he's coming to fight, and he's
on the
skilled.
Warpath,
he is on the warpath.
He's trying to prove himself, and he's stepping in there. He's ranked number 15, and he's got Dominic Cruz across from him. If he beats Dominic Cruz, that's immediately everyone knows who Casey Kenny is.
Yeah.
If you don't already know, like, a win over Dominic Cruz is better than Smolka, Alateng Haley, and Nathaniel Wood altogether, just purely based on name recognition and what people know of Dominic Cruz, as well as him being an analyst. Like, people are going to associate that ability to analyse with an ability to fight, which is then going to further push Casey Kenny's stock up if he does get a win.
I sort of thought it depends on which Dominic Cruz arrives, but that might not be the case. It might be a case of confident Casey Kenny coming in and imparting his game. But having said that, has Kenny seen these unpredictable pitches that Dom Cruz is going to give him? I mean, he's seen speed. He's seen speed with Nathaniel Wood.
Yeah,
like Nathaniel Wood is very quick and crisp and technically very nice, but he's not the same as the way that Dom moves.
No. I mean, he's got John Crouch, Chris Carriasso in his corner. So he's got a former title contender in Carriasso who's got good striking skills, and John Crouch, who's obviously an excellent mind in MMA. And they will be very, very familiar with Dominic Cruz just generally as an athlete anyway. So they'll have ideas, and they'll also know what they've got in Casey Kenny, who his striking game is going to be the thing that's the most in question, I would say, in this one, based on what Dominic Cruz can do. Because I think Casey Kenny, once he's locked up, second degree black belt in judo, black belt in Brazilian jiu-jitsu, and he's not really wanted to show it too much. I still think there's a depth to his grappling game that we've not seen, and I think that if nobody else knows that, John Crouch knows that. I think he'll say, look, just be aggressive. Like, be aggressive. This is 3 rounds as well. Like, the thing that Dominic Cruz beats people with is that he forces them to chase him.
Yeah.
Like, he chases them and he picks them off and cuts an angle and chases them off. When he's lost, people haven't done that. Like, they've gone and taken it off him, but not in a way that they're chasing recklessly. Like if Garbrandt fought Dillashaw the way he fought Cruz, he would have done so much better. But emotion was added into that one. Whereas when he was fighting Cruz, he was dancing and doing push-ups and stuff. It was a different mentality. Like, you can take the octagon away from Dominic Cruz, especially if you've got an aggressive kicking game that you don't mind getting caught and taken down if that's the situation.
Again, I feel
going against the veteran.
I feel funny picking against Dom Cruz. I mean it out of no disrespect at all. I've got a lot of respect for him as what he's done in the sport. But I think for me, there's too many question marks around him and where he's at. Whereas I just think Kenny is in that spot. He's rolling, and this is one of those ones that catapults him up the rankings and catapults his name into people's consciousness, as it was.
And Cruz he's never lost 2 in a row, and he's never been stopped with strikes before. And that's what he's coming off against Cejudo, which burns him. That burns him.
Yeah, right.
Because he don't like Cejudo at the best of times, and all the stuff he said about poor old referee at the same time as well.
Yeah,
you can tell how bitter he was about that. I think that might play into his mentality a bit, and I think that might help Casey Kenny, given the fact that he's just so chill and relaxed and having a good time.
Yeah, Kenny just seems to be loving his life right now, isn't he?
16-2. He's
Roll
on
me in.
a hell of a streak. So you're going with Casey Kenny?
Yeah, Casey Kenny, lock him in. Sorry, Dom.
Right, before we move on to the main card, I'm just going to quick change these batteries because we're on 1 bar. Should we roll with it? Should we keep going?
Yeah, what we got? 1, 2...
Let's keep rolling with it. I'll just keep an eye on it. It'll start to flash before it cuts out anyway.
Yeah.
Okay, main card time.
Yep. Wow.
Again, another fight that could be main event.
Honestly, I know we've said it 2 or 3 times. This card is
ridiculous.
I'm sure I don't have to persuade people to buy this, but this is the card.
Yeah, it is. I'm going to be sitting watching this one live with the UFC Picks app in front of me.
Yeah, for sure.
And I'm going to be paying close attention to how your picks go and how the leaderboard's stacking up and stuff. You've got to get the app if you're watching these fights live, by the way.
It seems to switch a lot between my picks when they're not going very well and our picks when they're going very well.
That's it. If you're right, then they're our picks. And if you get them wrong, then they're your picks.
Yeah, I mean, this...
37, Thiago Santos. I didn't realise he was that old. He's had a whole career, though. Was he in the military or the Special Forces or something?
Yeah, he looks exactly like he was in the Special Forces, isn't he?
Yeah. Green roping capoeira, black pride in Muay Thai, black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and fights like a Tasmanian devil. 15 knockouts out of 21 wins.
Yeah, he's
also stoppable though. He's been knocked out and choked out.
Yeah, but he puts himself out there. He's not conservative by any means, is he?
No.
Split decision. He went to a split decision with John Jones, right?
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah, he did. Yeah. And he got his knee destroyed in that fight as well, and he was out for a while rehabbing that. Then he comes back against Glover Teixeira, and mate, like, that couldn't have been an easier war room to break down.
Yeah.
Because it was like, okay, well, Glover's going to get hurt in the first round, then he's going to come back, he's going to drag him down, and he's going to choke him out, because that's what Glover does. It's exactly what happened.
Yeah.
I think Rakic will much rather want to contend in the striking range, in which case you've got someone who's got very long range, accurate kickboxing. I mean, that head kick that he caught Manuel with was just a beautiful setup.
He's accurate and precise. That's who he is as a striker, isn't it? He's really nice. He's got good power. But he doesn't get his power from like wildness. He gets his power from accuracy.
Yeah.
I mean,
what I will say is that Santos really impressed me against Blachowicz, and if he gets a win here, then he's on his way back to a title shot. Especially if Jan does well in the main event and maintains his belt. There's a story there.
Yeah, you're right.
And that was a bit of a. Like, that fight was a bit of a, the most patient fighter won, because Jan was expecting Santos to come out like a wild man, and he didn't for 10 minutes. And as soon as the third round started, it was literally 40 seconds into the third round, like, Jan went charging at him, which was very uncharacteristic of Jan, and ran onto a counter punch.
Yeah, lost the patience game.
Yeah,
he
did, and he knew it as well. As soon as the fight was over, he was like, got me. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's just going to be a gunslinger of a fight. I can't wait to watch it. It's going to be, edgy seat type stuff. I think Santos might, he might take it. Yeah.
I'm genuinely leaning the other way on this one.
Yeah.
Yeah, genuinely. I think
Santos he could get picked apart by.
He could get picked apart. I also think Rakic is going to be working that leg. I think the confidence in Santos's knee maybe not quite there, especially if he starts to feel his calf or his low kicks landing. I also think Rakic has got a real good command of range, and the times in which Santos gets reckless someone that commands that range can fill the space that he's running into with sharp elbows, knees, and kicks.
Well, I tell you what, he better have a good command of range, because if he gets it wrong, he's going to get knocked out.
Yeah. And the other thing as well is someone that rushes in a straight line generally moves out in a straight line. And if you move away in a straight line from Rakic, he's going to kick you with catch you with a kick on the end, because he's only got a 2-inch reach advantage, but his leg stat must be ridiculous. He's got very very long legs.
Yeah. Should have a leg stat.
They do sometimes. Yeah, they do throw it in there sometimes, but I don't know who's. I think that was just someone put that in so they can get on these fighters' legs and crotches, to be honest.
Whoa.
I don't think it was. I don't think it's not quite as well thought out in the way that it's applied. But like Megan Anderson against Nunes, one of her best tactics is to throw the right hand to lead kick. Because they move away from the right hand, feel they're safe, so they stop, and then the kick comes up
and extra little bit of length. Yeah, and
he's definitely that guy. You know, the kick that was a smoke screen for the Manoa knockout shows you the extent of his reach and shows you how far past that he can kick.
Yeah, when you watch that, you can almost empathise with Jimmy in that you did not see that coming, not even an inkling that was coming. It was just hidden beautifully, and then the next minute. Yeah,
stiffed him, didn't it? What a knockout!
Yeah.
So you're going with
fun
Santos,
fight. Yeah, I'll go with Santos. You go with Rakic.
Yeah. I've had a lot of requests for a breakdown on this one. Unfortunately, I haven't managed to put it together. I might try and throw something quickly together a bit later this week. But I've done all three of the title fights, so.
Yeah,
a lot of hype around this one. A lot of excitement around these two guys, and two guys could quite easily be contending for the belt in the very, very near future.
Well, whoever wins will be up there. You know, they'll put a bit of a stake down, won't they?
Yeah, but we've got to see what happens with this one. I mean, if Jan wins, then we're definitely going to see him face probably the winner of this next. I would say, if Adesanya wins, we might see him disappear back down to middleweight for a bit, and then we've got a bit of a
a bit of a mini tournament. Yeah, lock him in. Go Santos.
Okay. Another good fight.
Oh, man.
I mean, both of these guys, very, very talented, sitting right inside the top 15. Islam Makhachev against Drew Dober. I mean, Dober's punching power has really been proven to be something.
He's on TKO, KO, TKO. Yeah. He's on a tear. He's in his flow.
And he's a short, compact fighter that's heavily muscled that flows really nicely with his combination.
So he's hench, but he's got Colorado, so maybe it balances everything out.
Yeah,
he's a Muay Thai champ, wasn't he? He's got some serious experience. He's a handful, but Islam Makhachev he's the future. His fight with Sarukian. That's another one I could just keep watching. There was some nuances in there. You just like you are the future.
It's instinctive understanding of wrestling, isn't it? That's what's beautiful. Same with Khabib, and because he's in the same program. And now he's got Khabib as a coach instead of as a training partner. So he's still going to serve as a great training partner, but now he's got that 29-0 experience to start plugging into Makhachev.
Yeah, now
Khabib's probably not going to come back. I just don't see it.
Oh, man.
And now Makhachev.
That Matt now with Khabib, like maybe doing a few rounds, but then sitting out a few rounds and coaching as you're going. Powerful Matt that is now.
Yeah. And they've got some other good guys on there as well. I mean, Abu Bakr is, he's a welterweight. He's a good wrestler. He'll be able to push him. There's what's his name? What's his name? Why am I forgetting it? Tumanov? No, wrong guy. There's a bunch of guys in and around that team that have all got similar size, similar stature, similar kind of game. So he's
base game is they all have these little sort of individual nuances, don't they? But their base game is very similar. Their fundamentals. If you went top 5 fundamentals of each of these fighters, they'd be comparable, wouldn't they? Mm-hmm. And then they sort of add these individuality on the edge of it.
Yeah.
I mean, Dober beat Nasrat, and we were raving about Nasrat, a few weeks ago.
But then, as I'm looking at his record, I'm going he's got a win over Hernandez against Haqparast, against Marco Polo Reyes, but then a loss to Dariush by arm triangle.
So that's where I've written down here. I can see this going the same way as the Dariush fight. If Makhachev backs him up, gets him in that clinch up against the fence, I think it's going to be a rough night for him.
Yeah,
because there's that whole crew, that is their game now, isn't it? Like if you know that if you get caught up against that fence, you're in a lot of trouble because they got that whole breakdown system all the way through to submission or ground and pound TKO.
Yeah, and it is very much it's a cycle that you get stuck in.
Yeah.
You know, it's not.
I almost look at it as a system. Like you could buy that system and put it in on your hard drive, and you got that system.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just looking at some of the Tukagov, Zubaira Tukagov. That's the guy I was thinking. So he's a featherweight, but a guy that's got a good work rate and he's very aggressive. It's all about whether Dober can keep this one on the feet. Because if he can keep it on the feet, then we're going to see where Makhachev's striking is, and it's definitely not where his grappling is.
But it's a good test. Like if you're gonna be the champ in this division, and you go out there and you stand and you trade with Dober, and come off better, well, you're in a pretty good spot because you're going to get tested, and he's got some hands on him, hasn't he?
Yeah. But then if he steps in there against Dober, who's got 3 stoppages, 2 first and a second round, 2 performance bonuses in his last 2 fights, and he's just able to drown Dober, then you're like, okay,
you're really really good at that. Yeah.
And it's a bit like, you've got to think he's a bit like a sapling underneath in the shade of a big tree when he was in the division with Khabib at the top.
Yeah, but
like how far can you grow? Like you're always going to be slightly limited because you're never going to fight your teammate and basically one of his mentors.
I mean, I'm making massive assumptions when I say this, but it seems like that is quite a selfless team. They're looking after each other. It's a proper brotherhood. You know what I mean? They're even if Khabib was, obviously dominating, he was the boy. You wouldn't think that anyone else would be suffering in that camp. You feel like it's a selfless enough camp where everyone's getting better and they're just biding their time. And we are going to take this sport over. And at the minute it's Khabib, but he'll finish and then it'll be your turn. And maybe it's Makhachev's turn now.
Yeah, they are not here to take part.
No,
and they are taking over. And that wrestling game is a hell of a cycle to get caught in.
It will force everyone else to evolve. Someone is going to solve this problem of how do you get them off you? How do you get out of those leg irons? How do you get out of the handcuff? It will force us to work it out. And someone's working on it right now.
So a lot of people. Drew Dober's working on it right now.
Yeah, I hope so. I really hope so.
Which way are you going?
Makhachev, lock him in, man. I find it very hard to pick against him.
He's the safest bet. I mean, 18-1 compared to 23-9.
Yeah.
Like there's losses on Dober's record.
He knows the taste of loss. That can.
Yeah, and I mean, who's it? Yeah, Adrian Martins. He's a good fighter. He is. That's the only loss on Makhachev's record. That was a knockout in the first round. I remember how disappointed he was from that. But then Chris Wade, Nick Lentz, Gleason Tibau knocked him out in a minute. Kajan Johnson, Sarukian and Hamas as well has not been celebrated nearly as much as it should have been. That was a dominant performance against a big, strong lightweight with a great ground game. And the thing is, if he was able to do that to Hamas, if he can get close to Dober and get him to the floor, it's most likely he can do the same thing to him as well. I mean, Dober's strong, physically well conditioned, purple belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
It's not enough.
It's just not enough.
It's not enough, is it?
No. He has to focus on not going to the ground as opposed to getting back up when he's there.
Yeah, that the obvious route, the obvious result of this fight is exactly that. Is that Makhachev either survives the stand up and backs him up and corners him and whatever, and then gets into the clinch, goes through that whole process and wins by TKO. And that's the most obvious sort of way this plays out. We'll see.
All right. We're into the title fights.
Yeah. Wow.
Peter Yan.
I'm so conflicted over this. I'm so conflicted.
I spent 30 minutes breaking it down, and I'm still. I can see ways for both of these guys to win, and I can see, like, these guys could fight 10 times, and I can give you 10 different outcomes, 5 apiece. Yeah. I will say that. My first thoughts are negative thoughts, I would say. My first negative thought for Peter Yan is that he is there to get hit. Like, a part of his game is to make you feel pressured, which means he has to leave himself vulnerable. And he's got great defense, and he pressures people into trying to throw things to keep him away, which is then when he starts to capitalize, slip into the outside of punches, closing distance. we were just talking about boxing footwork before we started recording, and I likened him to Dmitry Pirog and his footwork and that old the Ketchel shift. He does a lot of that stepping through footwork, and someone like Aljamain, they're so mobile and so agile. I don't know as he's had to have the same thought process with footwork because it's just kind of there for him. He just moves well. His nickname was the Funkmaster from his wrestling days because he had an unusual style. And from the wrestling matches I've watched, even his opponents are unnerved because they don't exactly know what to do with him.
Yeah.
But then on the flip side, PT Yan does the same thing with the striking. And I feel like if Yan's able to walk Aljamain Sterling down and not get hurt in the process, then that pressure with those short boxing combinations is going to be problematic for Sterling when he gets back up against the fence. If Sterling comes out aggressive and doesn't fall into that pressured back, uneasy because I'm not sure what's going on, then he's got a great kicking game. He's not necessarily got big power in his hands, Sterling. I mean, he's got one TKO in the UFC, and that was it was the guy turning away from getting hit too many times. It wasn't a concussive bam and they're out. And we have seen PT Yan land those kind of punches, especially when he's stepping through.
I can sort of see Sterling knowing that PT Yan is going to try and pressure him and walk at him and just not have any of it and come at him. And I could sort of see it going similar to how it started with Jimmy Rivera, in that he came at him, backed him up, and then grabbed up on that single leg and just sort of went from there. And like we saw with Sanhagen, if he does get in that grapple when he's dry, he's going to be a problem for him.
Yeah,
I can sort of see the opening round kind of happening like that.
Yeah, I mean he was on Sanhagen's back within 30 seconds. And Sanhagen did a great job of defending, but
he did everything he could.
He did everything
do pretty much, couldn't he?
I mean, Sterling's got a he's got a great single leg. He shoots a low single and he runs it up and forces people to the floor, usually covering a lot of distance. So then they hit the fence, they go down against the fence, and then they're scrambling back up and turn and give their back. And, in the Cody Stamen fight, took his back, couldn't get the rear naked choke, but finished with the Sulu stretch.
Yeah.
I mean, that shows options in a position like that.
Yeah, it shows agile grappling, isn't it? He can just flow between attack to attack.
Like the general feeling I've been getting from the fans and the feedback is that PT Yan's not fought somebody who's got the grappling of Aljamain Sterling. And I would say maybe that's the case. I would also pose the possibility that PT Yan's done a lot of wrestling and clinch work in his early days, and he's much more like a boxer with takedown defense in MMA now. He's got some nice tricks.
But it's working for him, so you wouldn't expect him to bring out those skills if what he's doing is working so well for him.
See, he's a master of sports in mixed martial arts.
Yeah, I love
but
that,
a blue belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, that can't be right. There must be. That's not a master of sports in mixed martial arts. He's not a blue belt equivalent.
Yeah.
He's got to be better than that.
Yeah.
And he's got one submission on his record.
He's another one who's just like controlled and cold and like psychopath precise, isn't he?
Well, you saw that Christmas photo that he posted on his Instagram. He looks beautiful family and everything, and he's staring down the lens like he's going to try and set fire to you through the camera.
Yeah,
he's a scary dude, and he has that presence, and a lot of people that face him, they buy into that presence that he's got, and it affects them, and then he starts to walk them down and do his thing.
Yeah, even Pedro Munoz tried to walk Sterling down. Like he got in his face and tried to walk him down. So it's not a picture he hasn't seen.
He did, but he didn't at the same time. Like, the difference with Munoz is he walks people down, but in a way that he's much more of he's following them.
Right, yeah.
You know what I mean? Yeah. Like if you watch the way that PT Yan fights, like he'll shadow someone to the fence, and as he sees them drifting across, instead of just chasing them and then giving them the outside,
laterally micro shift across,
out and repressures and drifts out and repressures, and that's not something we see from Pedro Munoz, which is why Sterling was able to kind of keep getting around him.
Yeah, okay.
He would rush in, throw weird punches out off weird angles, and then go again. I don't even think PT Yan's going to move back a great deal. Because anytime he's moving back, he's having to work his way back into that range. I think he'd rather just stay there and tuck up and take things. Yeah. Which is why Sterling investing in his kicks, in his kicks over his punches, is going to be more damaging over the long run. Because you can start hammering those arms and legs, and he's there to be hit. Aldo lit him up lower body as well. There's definitely a way in for Sterling in this one.
And you're even and then the counter to those kicks is obviously the grappling, the takedown. But then he's going to be pretty happy to engage in that anyway, isn't he?
And he does a lot. You remember that the technique that Adesanya used on Brunson, where he kicked his arm and bounced his arm away.
Yeah.
He does a lot of that stuff, but oftentimes it's opposite sides instead of same side like Adesanya. He'll throw a kick off his right leg and then come back with a left hook as he's putting his right foot down.
Yeah,
and it's like you're watching it, and you're like, oh, like you can't cover both of those things. Like if Peter Yan's walking him down and an inside low kick comes and he covers that before he's put his foot down, the hook's coming over the side of his guard.
And the way that sling works across your body, you almost get like a recoil effect. So like you whip that kick in and you recoil back with that hook. Yeah, it's some power, and and if Yan is covering up and taking that, that's causing a lot of damage to his arms and his hands, and the fatigue that's going to be coming through his shoulders.
Yeah, and I'm going to mention it one more time because I watched it about 10 times yesterday. When Canelo was fighting Yildirim, he wasn't bothered. He was hitting arms and things. He just he was working on him like a heavy bag,
accumulating the fatigue.
You couldn't do that in MMA gloves because you're going to hit something that's going to twist your wrist and do some damage. But with kicks, like Sterling can be hammering into that body, and Yan is just tucked up here. Like you can't take those kicks over and over again without it being having some effect. And the knock-on effect against Yildirim would work here because it deadens the arms, the triceps, which case they don't have that same kind of pop.
Yeah. I think the belt's changing hands.
You do, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm glad that Sterling's getting an opportunity. He's gonna have to. It's going to be a hell of a fight regardless. And whoever wins, he's going to have a great performance in order to beat the other one.
Yeah.
That's the best thing about these kind of fights.
Yeah.
It's whoever wins, you're going to have to really earn it. They're going to have to be spectacular.
Aljo as the champ.
Reach advantage. Height same. Yeah, and see, he's listed on everything as an orthodox fighter, but he's not. He's got so many options. I would say that he's probably preferential to shoot from an orthodox stance.
Yeah,
but when he's moving and kicking, he's both stances.
Yeah.
He's...
Like him.
Okay, so you're locking Aljo.
Lock him in. Lock him Aljo. I think we got the first of the titles is going to change hands.
Okay, I think you might go the opposite way on this
which is almost certainly not going to happen in this fight.
Everybody's saying that. Like, you know what I'm like. I always like to play devil's advocate and make an argument for the contender.
Listen, anyone that throws a right hand and bares their teeth at the same time, like Nunes does, is all right by me.
Yeah, she's like the lioness.
She's like, it's coming, whack.
Yeah.
I mean, I know. Obviously, I try not to watch the war rooms too close to this, otherwise I just end up repeating what you kind of said, and it's a bit disingenuous. But I know you've made a case for Megan or however we're pronouncing it. I just find it's just tough. It's just tough to bet against Amanda. Like, you just go down a record and you look at what she's done, you look at sort of who she is, and she's just tough to pick against. She's she's at the pinnacle of the sport, and she's a good champ. She's a great champ.
Yeah, she's great. She's great partly because she's aggressive and powerful, partly because she's overwhelming. And see, Megan Anderson. So when I'm making an argument for a fighter, especially if they're a massive underdog, I have to look at everything that they've done and everything that they have the potential to do based on what I've seen, and then try and plug those things in. And I'm like, so, and obviously she's got James Krause in the corner, who's going to be going through the same process as I am in his head, but far more focused on his fighter and knowing exactly what she's capable of. I'm speculating based on what I've seen from Invicta in the UFC so far. Megan's got a good jab, and she's not too concerned about getting into a brawl off the bat. She knows she's got a reach and height advantage most of the time, and she has tailored her game to suit that. And her jab's not she's not trying to ram the jab down someone's throat. She's placing it nicely, which I think is valuable for her, because Nunes, to get inside, is going to be trying to get around that jab or over that jab. So if Megan Anderson's really committing to that overhand right
coming over,
that Nunes throws is going to catch her.
Yeah.
Whereas if Megan's moving away and jabbing, every time Nunes is coming in, she's able to line her up with the jab and start picking her with the right hand. She might be able to catch her and start moving back, in which case that head kick comes off the lead leg. When it comes to the grappling game, you've got to go Nunes all over. Anderson has shown good takedown defense up against the fence, though. And she had a great knee against Holly Holm as Holly Holm was changing levels against the fence.
That's that beautiful advantage of being that tall, is that, you know, that knee up the middle, either in the clinch or even in the open sometimes. It's just a weapon you don't have if you're, you know, 5'4".
Yeah. And you know, going back to what you said about Nunes and you know, the way she bares her teeth when she's throwing her right hand. What I was doing the other day is I was watching Nunes' fights. I was pausing them right at the point where the right hand was about to make contact. And oftentimes she's here.
Yeah.
And she's like,
Yeah.
And so her body's in this angle, in which case her knee coming up the centre.
Yeah.
She might be able to time her to that. I mean, she was unfortunate she didn't knock Holly Holm out with that knee. Megan Anderson I'm talking about, against the fence. And Holly's a veteran. She knows how to turn fights around, you know, against adversity, which she did. It's, you know, everyone's going to always favour Nunes, and you know, you'd say probably these fight 10 times and Nunes wins 9. It doesn't mean the one time that Megan Anderson wins that's not going to be this weekend, because it could quite easily be.
It's a hell of a party if she wins. It's got, yeah. I mean, it's highly unlikely, isn't it? But you know, I mention all the time, the beauty of this sport is that nothing is cut and dry. There's always opportunity. It's too complex for anything to be zeros and ones. There's always chances and there's always angles.
And Nunes' striking, she does forego some of the technical assets of her game for the power, which does work out well for her. But there are times still when, you know, she is open, and the closer she is to Megan Anderson in this fight, the safer it is for her. Even if she finds herself up against the fence with Megan Anderson with good head position, like she's so well at getting, the judo throws from Nunes is going to be really beneficial. Any kind of body lock for a taller person.
It's going to be a nightmare, isn't it?
And the thing that always is going to work against Megan is that Nunes absolutely wrecked Felicia Spencer.
Yeah.
And Felicia Spencer choked out Megan Anderson. And there was a point where Nunes overwhelmed Felicia, caught her with an uppercut as she was shooting, sprawled on her and took her back. And at no point would you have imagined Anderson to be able to do the same thing to Felicia Spencer. I mean, I think she's interesting because physiologically she is problematic given the fact that she is tall. I mean, she is 50% legs. Like if you drew a silhouette on a wall and you drew a line across, she's like 50-50 legs. Yeah. And that can be a difference if she is able to flow through those combinations as Nunes is moving away.
I don't think this is the case with Amanda, but obviously it's very hard to tell from the outside. She hasn't lost since 2014. Megan Anderson is not necessarily a name. She could potentially underestimate her, and you know, I don't get that feeling from what I've seen of her. I feel like she's the ultimate professional, and she would go.
I spoke to her on Friday.
Yeah,
I had a conversation with Anderson with Nunes on Friday, and she, like, I said to her, you know, what new things have you been working on? What's your training camp look like? And she was like, honestly, I've not been working on anything new. I've been working on the things that are already really good, and I'm just making them better. Yeah. And this was, if you remember, this was lined up for December. And the reason it says on the record,
a couple of cycles at getting ready for this.
Yeah. On the record, it says that Nunes withdrew due to an undisclosed injury, but I think it was more down to Nina Askarov having a really rough labour. And,
needing to be around.
And obviously with COVID and everything, the hospital situation is difficult. So from what I understood from Amanda, like, she was basically full-time parent for most of the most of the weeks that she should have been training for that fight, which is why she withdrew.
I mean, it changed, you know, that her life has changed, you know.
But then Nina's back in camp and looking in great shape.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're both back on that train, and she now, I think now they've turned the corner of, you know, baby being born and everything settles
down. A little bit. It's a big disruption, then it sort of settles a little bit, doesn't it?
I mean, they're both in the same industry. They're both chasing the same goals.
Yeah.
And they both love the fact that they've got their little baby at the gym with them while they're training. You know, Nunes calls her a strawberry. And it's. I mean,
it's like your worst nightmare having kids around while you're training in camp.
I don't know. I mean, they've never been my kids, but it's like
maybe it's just my kids.
I'd imagine it would be a I'd imagine for some people it'd be a real distraction, and for other people it'd be a real boost.
Yeah. The reminder of why you're doing this is constantly in the gym with you. You're not gonna shave off 30 seconds of the last round.
No,
because your reminder is right there.
Whereas you talk to Rakic going into his last fight, and he was actually sleeping in a different building because they just had a little boy, and it was the conversation was, I need to be ready for this.
A lot of players, when they have new babies, is they sleep in other rooms, or you find them in a lay-by at 7 in the morning, having a quick
sitting
sleep
in the car park before conditioning.
Exactly.
Yeah,
locker room, it's tough, innit? It's tough to pick against Amanda, really. And,
it's the most certain fight on the card, I would say, and it's still potential for an upset.
Well,
go on then.
What do you say? I gotta tell you, mate. This was a war room. This was one of your best. You know how I know we're grown-ups is because I'll actually tell you when you do good things.
Yeah.
As back in the day, we just found a way of taking the piss. Oh, you're a fucking analyst now. You're all right, mate. Calm down.
Yeah.
It was a very, very, very good one. I've really enjoyed watching it.
Thanks.
450,000 people have viewed that. So then it's an impressive product we got going there. I mean, I don't know what to say. You sort of covered everything you could possibly cover in there. It's a scary, freakish Polish power against precision hitman in Israel. This is mixed martial arts for me. This is why I'm in love with it. This is it. You think the bigger, stronger, more powerful guy should win it, but then you know that skills pay the bills, and you know that precision beats everything. And is there anyone as precise and as Israel at the minute? He's right at the pinnacle of it.
Well,
it's just in the balance.
That's it.
To the point where maybe it comes down to who can manage this occasion, who can manage putting their game plan and them as a fighter and almost like the soul of who they are as a martial artist in there at the right time under these extreme conditions, because it doesn't get any bigger than this, really.
It doesn't.
Who can impart their game plan with the most precision, and who can accommodate and adjust in real time fast enough, because they both have an idea of what they're coming up against, but both of them have an idea of what they're going to come up against. So they're always going to be laying these traps, and I know you know that you know that I know, and now I know you know that you know that I know. Do you know what I mean? And this is the game.
I've seen some odd analogies floating around about this fight, which I'll throw a new analogy out there, because you can't liken these two guys to cars. Jan's a tank, and Adesanya is a sniper with armor-piercing rounds. That's the reality here. Is Jan has got the potential to run him over, smash him up against the fence, beat him up in the clinch, drag him down, maul him on the floor, and arm triangle him.
This is a bank heist. This is a bank heist. Have you seen Casa de Papel?
No, I think
on
so.
Netflix. Brilliant. Money Heist.
No, I haven't.
Money Heist, but honestly, take my advice and watch it in Spanish with the subtitles. Two things in the world we're in, it actually makes you concentrate because you're having to read the titles instead of scrolling your phone or half listen to it. And it is a brilliant series. And there's the professor is like the mastermind behind this bank heist, and it's a massive elaborate plan, and things go wrong, things go right, and whatever. And he's like on the spectrum a little bit, and he's got this incredible plan that they've been planning for years and years. And I feel like that this is a bank heist. Izzy shouldn't be coming up and trying to take this off Jan. Who does he think he is?
Oh,
do you know what I mean?
He absolutely should.
Do you know what I mean? You know the narrative, though. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can't come up a weight class and come challenge for the belt. Who are you? But absolutely he can. Absolutely can. It's going to be an epic encounter. Man, I can't wait to watch it. And like, it conflicts you in terms of your feelings. Like, you feel like Jan should be able to just to solidify this and be too big and too strong and too powerful, and he has got that freakish Polish power that he loves to talk about, and
his body kicks are excellent as well.
But I'm on that Israel hype train. I'm on that Israel hype train.
You've got to think, if you're Jan, though, with the popularity of calf kicks, you've got to think that's going to be one of your routes to victory, because Adesanya puts so much emphasis on that lead leg placement and what he can do with his range from where he puts his lead foot. Like, Jan's got a good chin. He takes a hell of a shot. The reason he got knocked out by Thiago Santos is because he was sprinting at his fist. If he's patient and walks his way in behind a good defence, a little bit Peter Yan as well, I suppose, and allows some stuff to bounce off him. The challenge for Yan, and something I highlighted in the breakdown, is that he tends to be very reactive with his hands and his head. It's like, oh, you're coming at me. I'm gonna move away and I'm gonna push my hands out instead. And then
do you know what I mean? It couldn't fall better into what he wants.
Exactly, because Adesanya plays those games within games with Adesanya. Not only is he manipulating you with his footwork, but he's also manipulating your guard with his feints and stuff.
Like recently we've talked about camps and how can you create learning from play, and how can you create skill acquisition from play. And again, I'm in the dark whether this is true or not, but I feel like that camp plays a lot, and they do coached playing, it seems like. It'd be interesting if it was just a completely traditional camp and nothing had changed there.
Yeah, maybe. But then on the flip side, you've got Yan, who's taking body kicks from heavyweights, and he's like doing the whole kickboxer thing, the blood sport thing.
Again, it's just, it's beautiful matchmaking, and I can't wait to watch it.
Which way do you go? What's your instinct telling you? If they fought 10 times, who wins how many times?
I would sway towards being 7 times Israel would win, 7 out of 10.
It's exactly the same stat I've got.
Yeah.
About 70% chance of Adesanya winning.
Yeah.
Yan's got to work hard for a victory here.
Yeah, very, 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 very hard.
He might have been better facing the 205 John Jones before he moved up than Adesanya at this stage. Because the speed is a thing too, and like he's not good. He's not putting weight on to go up because he's going back down again. So he's just not gonna cut, which means he'll be comfortable and
healthy.
And loose and...
All his systems are working, and he's speed across all sports is the most threatening physical characteristic because you can't do too much about it. If you get beaten to the punch, you can be as strong as you want, but you're going to get beaten to the punch.
Yeah,
It's not the strong punch that misses; it's the punch that lands that does the damage.
Yeah, man. Better to land 250% power punches than 100% power that misses.
Yeah.
Go on then.
Yeah, Izzy, lock him in. I'm well and truly. I'm just fascinated to see if he can pull the high stuff or not. But,
hell of a fight. Hell of a fight. Hell of a card. Taller and longer as well.
Yeah. What a card.
Can't wait.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Hurry this week up.
In it, right? Yeah. Make sure you go and get the app, download it, play along with us, make your picks and see if you can win some cash. You don't have to put your hand in your pocket. You can get money for a free account. So go and get involved.
£5,000.
Is it
up for grabs
time?
this time? Yeah.
Nice. That's a big chunk of cash you can get. You can have a part of that in your pocket if you make some good picks. So probably don't listen to us and make your own picks. Hell of a card. Enjoy UFC 259. Dude,
boom, done.
Another good episode. See you next time.